Hello all, Varsona here. I have been getting a lot of questions recently on my Moonveil and Rivers of Blood build video, 3 Sword Style for Moonveil and Revengeance for Rivers of Blood. If you're interested in learning more about those builds, check out the link in the description and comments below. And while you're there, make sure to hit that subscribe button to support your boy, Varsona. Hit that bell icon so you'll be notified when I drop my next build video. Anywho, I've been getting quite a bit of questions about whether to invest in the Moonveil build or the Rivers of Blood build and which katana is generally better, so I figured I'd answer it in this video. So I'm going to give a different rating between which one is better for both PvP and PvE, and I'm going to also do it in a context of just the weapon without anything else, like no swappable weapons, no entire kit, no other spells, just the pure weapon, and of course, which build overall is better, the 3 Sword Style for Moonveil or the Rivers of Blood Revengeance build. And I think it's important to compare the weapon and the build separately just because builds allow you to cover the weapon's weaknesses or to strengthen their strengths even more. And just because the build variety does have a big impact on the breadth of options you'll be able to have or utilize when you are playing through the game, right? That could impact the PvE rating quite a bit. So let's get into it. Let's talk about just the weapon for now. In a vacuum, which one is better, Rivers of Blood or Moonveil? Let's start with PvE. So in a vacuum, I think the Moonveil Katana wins out for one simple reason, and it's because of accessibility. The Moonveil Katana can be accessed right from the beginning of the game as long as you fulfill one requirement, and that is declare a dungeon boss. However, getting to the Rivers of Blood requires you to make some progress in the story as you have to clear the Lindell capital. Not only that, but while you're still building up your spells and your Ashes of War repertoire, having a range option in an otherwise melee build within the Moonveil Katana's weapon art is a nice thing to have. That's not to say Rivers of Blood is bad or anything. Rivers of Blood is extremely amazing. It's just that it comes so late in the game, you might as well just play a different build entirely up until you reach the Rivers of Blood Katana itself and then just respec. Now for PvP, the 2 messages here real quick. I know there's a lot of hate for Moonveil Katana, but for those of you who use Moonveil and you enjoy using Moonveil because it looks cool, it feels great, continue using it. It's a game that you play your way if you enjoy playing it that way. Forget what anyone else thinks. You're the one enjoying your gameplay experience. And if they cannot dodge Moonveil anyways, they probably deserve to get one-shotted. Because the Moonveil is not very hard to dodge in PvP 1v1. You can watch my build videos. I fight against Moonveils all the time. I'm running 35 Vigor for most of my builds. 40 if you count Radagon's Source Seal. So you know I'm squishy. You know I will get one-shotted by certain builds. I am not terrified of Moonveil whatsoever. And if people think I do have a bias, I don't care. I love all katanas, right? All katanas are amazing. I'm a simple man. I see katana, I upvote. So yeah, even post-nerf, Moonveil is still a great weapon for PvP. However, what I am terrified of as a low vigor player is Rivers of Blood because it is a very good reaching weapon art that is not a projectile, so it will clip through walls. It has high active frames, meaning that if you roll the wrong way, you're gonna get clipped by the multi-hits or the optional follow-ups that the Rivers of Blood has, and that increases the mind game of the Rivers of Blood. Both Moonveil and Rivers of Blood have a mind game. In Moonveil, you stay in a sheath state, you can move around, you can dodge out of it, but you're basically saying, hey, I got my gun locked and loaded, ready to fire. If you approach me or do something wrong, I will shoot. With Rivers of Blood, you can do your initial swing and then choose not to or choose to continue, so the opponent can't just jump in on you willy-nilly right after your initial weapon art swing. The best part about Rivers of Blood though is how fast it triggers bleed in PvP. If they don't die from the initial hit, they're gonna die from the bleed. And if they don't die from the bleed, they're gonna die from the burn. It's honestly a very dirty weapon right now. And just as I said with Moonveil, if you enjoy Rivers of Blood, don't let anyone tell you not to use the weapon or, oh, it's too OP, oh, you're not that good because you use Rivers of Blood. Play however you want to, enjoy the game because that's how Elden Ring should be played. You should play it for your enjoyment. Who cares how else people enjoy the game? You play it your way. So in PvP, in a vacuum, I would choose Rivers of Blood over Moonveil just because it is a very powerful weapon right now as of version 1.03. This can change in the future, but right now, Rivers of Blood does have an edge over the nerfed Moonveil Katana. In a build scenario for PvP and PvE, 3 Sword Style versus the Revengeance build, oh man, that's a tough one. For PvE, I do think the Rivers of Blood Revengeance build is better simply because it utilizes 15 Faith, and Faith carries that build because And with low faith, you get access to so much. I think there's such a big discrepancy between intelligence and faith. With like little investment in intelligence, you don't really get much. With little intelligence into faith, like in the Revengeance build, you get a damage buff that's not tied to a weapon. You get heals over time, you get burst heals, you get support shields, you get some projectiles, physical and fire. And then you also get cleanses, which are amazing for this game. If you ever go to Kaled or some other areas in the future, you're going to get hit with a lot of afflictions and it's going to suck. But if you have some faith investment, it trivializes those areas. As for the range disadvantage that Rivers of Blood puts you in instead of Moonveil, being in the Revengeance builds gives you access to a long range attack in Thunderbolt and a mid range attack in a Fireball. So that's kind of covered, not really a weakness anymore. That's really the magic of both builds really. 3-sword style is available earlier in the game because you can get Moonveil much earlier. But Revengeance is a good thing to progress into if you're looking for the meta most damage thing whatsoever. A lot of the pieces do carry over. The thing about this though is that when comparing for PvE, it's not so much about the weapon itself, it's more about faith versus sorceries at lower investments. Because at a lower level, faith is just way more useful. I can't think of any sorcery spell that at 15 intelligence would do anything that faith doesn't already cover and more. So yeah, for PvE, Revengeance is the way to go. Thanks Faith for carrying that build. For PvP though, drumroll please, Rivers of Blood wins out again. Simply because it is stronger, it does have that high active frame to catch rolls, and Thunderbolt honestly is slept on a lot. It's such a strong skill, it forces people to approach you. People at long range can't cast if you have a Thunderbolt because you can interrupt them because it's much faster than most strong spells at long range. And you can chain cast it and mix up the timing on it, so people have to kind of look at you and focus on you and roll to your arm being raised for the Thunderbolt, and they're forced to approach, which is where you want them for Rivers of Blood anyways. And of course, you just spam that weapon art and they're gonna die. It's really easy. For Moonveil, if you use your weapon art and they dodge it at a certain range, you are gonna get punished or die. However, Moonveil paired up with the carrion sword spells that kind of track enemies and hit them and stagger them is really effective, because if they approach a certain range and you have the Moonveil and you use the Moonveil, you miss with that, the swords will try to hit them as well, which could lead to them getting hit by the swords, which then gives you another Moonveil weapon art opportunity. However, I don't think that beats out just having the Rivers of Blood weapon art Corpse Piler. That move is insanely good. It tracks really well, has great range, great hitbox, and damage. And if the damage doesn't kill, the bleed will. So yeah, in a build scenario, Rivers of Blood definitely wins on both ends, simply because everything that I would consider a weakness of Rivers of Blood is mitigated by having Faith access and having access to Thunderbolt and other Ashes of War, like the Sudoku puzzle, so on and so forth. So with that said, Rivers of Blood seems to be the stronger build, so why should you even care about the 3-sword style? Well, I mentioned before that if you are planning on playing as a Katana main, a Samurai main, it might be better for you to start off as the 3-sword style, and then when you get to the point where you get Rivers of Blood playing naturally, you can make that change, and if you like it, you stick to it. But if you enjoyed the Moonveil all the way up to then, maybe you'll switch back, maybe you give it a try. For me, if I were to choose Moonveil versus Rivers of Blood, I would choose Moonveil like 10 out of 10 times, not because it is a strong weapon. I just think the Katana looks elegant, I love how clean it looks, and I love the art of the draw. I think it has a very cool animation to it. Nothing else really. It doesn't even matter if that weapon was the worst. I'd probably just enjoy it based off of aesthetics and try to make it work for my playthrough, because that's how I enjoy Elden Ring. I just also happen to be competitive and enjoy PvP. So what that means is you guys get cool builds, I get to be a weeb for a little while, and everyone's happy. Yeah, so I really recommend, if you're looking for meta, Rivers of Blood. But if you don't care, you let me know in the comments below what katana you enjoy more, Rivers of Blood or Moonveil. My name is Varsona once again, thanks for sticking around. I hope this video helped you decide which build you want to go for. I'll see you next time.